all of you, and so might not be eligible to apply anymore, but perhaps you can pass the word on to your juniors or to your siblings who may be able to take advantage of this particular program. So most students actually don't know what a deferred MBA is. The agenda for today is I'll spend a few minutes talking and explaining what a deferred MBA is, and then we will have a discussion with Haider Sultan, the very first Yale Silver Scholar from Pakistan, about his journey into getting accepted into a deferred MBA, and then we will open up for questions. So a deferred MBA admission permits any student to apply in their senior year of university. Most MBA programs require you to have a minimum of 2 years work experience. So the typical average you will see will vary for top Ivy League universities for a minimum of 4 to 5 years, but it's mandatory to have at least 2 years. The deferred MBA bypasses all of that, whereas you, as a senior in your university, as a senior in LUMS, can apply for this particular program. Upon acceptance into your deferred program, you can secure your seat and then go for your professional work experience. So there's a big advantage to apply early while you're still in university because of several reasons. You're still in study mode. The stats show that your performance in your GMAT and GRE standardized testing, that all of you, I hope, will be going for graduate programs at some point or another, whether it's an MBA or whether it's a master's. If you are planning to apply to the US, you will have to give your GRE and GMAT scores. Know that those scores are going to be valid for a period of 5 years. So we strongly recommend that as juniors, you should be giving those tests. Your scores tend to be higher because afterwards, when you're in the workforce and you're working not 9 to 5 because you're trying to make a mark, your work hours are in fact longer, securing those grades are harder. So it's an exam that we really recommend you take in your junior year. The application process is the same for the regular MBA, minus the immediate work requirement. But as you will find out from Haider, even if you don't have the work experience, you do have to demonstrate leadership, and your internship experiences are going to count for a lot. So why should I consider an MBA program? Reserve your seat while you're still in college. If you are planning to go for an MBA later on, this will take a load off your mind. Your career advancement opportunities will skyrocket. If you have an admission offer in hand from Stanford or Yale or Harvard and are then looking for a job, your chances of getting employment in top firms are significantly greater because you can show off and say, I have already secured admission into an MBA program at this particular school. It will help you with your finances. Know that MBA programs do not give financial need to internationals. Generally speaking, merit scholarships are extremely few and far between. Harvard does give financial need, but only if you meet their need requirements, which all of you might not. Let's just say 95% of you will be paying the tuition fees for your MBA. And that's a hefty price tag. We're talking about $180,000 here or there. And so working before going for your MBA allows you to actually earn that money and save it. Hopefully not splurge all of it. You also gain a sense of security. You know your pathway, you know your admission is secured, and so you have more chances, more appetite for risk while you are working. So you also have flexibility in terms of what kind of a deferred MBA you're looking for. Some will allow you to work for a few years before you start your MBA program. Others, such as the Yale Silver Scholar, you go to your first year of grad school immediately after finishing your undergrad, you then work for a few years, and you return back for your last year. So know that the deferred MBA program is different across different schools. Things to keep in mind, only the top schools in the US offer this. This is not a program offered by all business schools in the US. Only the top schools offer it, and therefore the acceptance rates are also very competitive. Anyone who is considering doing an MBA, this does not have to be just business or econ majors, should seriously think about doing a deferred MBA program. Something that you ought to know, applying for a deferred MBA and being rejected should not deter you. It will not impact you if you decide, you know what, forget it, I didn't get into the deferred MBA program of my choice. When you apply later for an MBA, it is not held against. So there are a lot of advantages to going the deferred MBA route. Key differences between a deferred MBA program and a regular MBA program. A regular MBA does require you to have work experience, as I mentioned, whereas for the deferred MBA, that's not the case. The other key difference is that in a regular MBA, when you are, let's say you're working in the oil and gas industry, and you decided, you know what, this is not for me. I want to actually specialize in finance in my MBA program. Making the case of my work experience does not align with the concentration I want to do in my MBA is harder. Whereas if you've already secured your deferred MBA, you've pocketed it, and you want to try out some different industries before going for your MBA, that allows you greater room for maneuverability as well as risk. What are the top programs for deferred MBA? Harvard 2+2. So you can defer that, pocket your ambition, and take 3 to 4 years to work before going to business school. The Wharton program, Stanford, MIT, Chicago, Jordan is University of Virginia, Yale, CBS, and Berkeley. There are multiple cycles, and the admission cycle for every single university differs. So know that this is a relatively new program, and the procedure varies per university. Some will allow you to apply in round 1, others will not. They may say apply in round 3, which is the case for Yale. What does the profile of students look like? Interestingly enough, 60 to 70% of students accepted into a deferred MBA program have a STEM background. They want to showcase a diverse student body. This is not what would come to mind. We would expect to see business and economics students having the greater share of the pie, but it's actually STEM. So do share this with your family and friends that if they are thinking that they might want to go for an MBA, this is a great time to apply while they're still in university. And then 15 to 17% of students also have a humanities and social science background. Female candidates end up being slightly less than half of the students, international students 25 to 30%. I expect to see these numbers increase over time. Part of the reason why you see the international cohort as being less is simply because many students, including many Pakistani students, are not aware of the deferred MBA program. And as stories like Haider start to spread, people will become more aware and we'll see more applications being put in. There is no compromise on scores, guys. So this is the average GMAT score. Please keep in mind that as to be a competitive candidate, your scores will have to be even higher. And this is the average GPA. We take the academics as a given for these top programs and not go into too much depth into them. With that, I hope this kind of clears what a deferred MBA program is and how it is different from a regular MBA. And I would now like to invite Haider Sultan to join me on stage so that we can go over Heather's journey and that all of you can learn from this. Thank you. So it is ironic, 2 years ago, Heather invited me to the same university, and we were on opposite sides of the divide. Heather had invited me as a candid leader, and he was the one interviewing me. I find it very ironic, Heather, that now the tables have turned and I am questioning you about your journey. So it is, I think you are a role model, not just for the students who are listening in today and you on this recording. You are the first person from Pakistan to be accepted into the Yale Scholars Program. That is a phenomenal achievement. And I would like you to leave your pearls of wisdom for your juniors to, so that they can kind of look back, hear this, see what you've done. And so to kind of go over your journey in this, Heather, when did you decide that you wanted to do a deferred MBA?
First of all, thank you, Ma'am, for having me. And I think it was in my sophomore year, I was determined that I want to do an MBA, not any particular master's, not any other field. I was interested in exploring the field, and this was also the decide because EDMA is interested in so sophomore year was the year when I decided that for me that's the perfect fit because MBA focuses on the leadership and it's not an academic degree. Required prepares you to be rather than dual academic. So one of the reasons for that, and it would make sense to get an acceptance MBA and be able to just follow part of the deferred MBA group, but slightly different. So was interested in all of them, you might not be so yeah, that was it. I made up my mind myself.
So okay, you made up your mind in your sophomore year. You knew that grades are going to be a critical part of this process. Did you make a conscious decision to choose certain courses, and which ones were they?
Yes. So even freshman year, if you want to go for an MBA or any other grad school, you want to go to the job, right? So the job school means
everyone wants to go to the job.
So you want to go to the job school, you need to have good grades and important. That's a given. So you have to take more quantitative courses. That's an advantage for you if you already have a quantitative teacher. Okay, so this finance, we have management science, we have economics, and all the STEM majors, they're all quantitative. So but if you want to go a little beyond that, so you can take advanced courses in math, economics, finance, even in data, analytics, all of that. But you need to take more points. You need to show the that you have good points skills because this is now all about data and how good are you with it. But with finance, you have management, all kinds of data, like BI, all. You should know how to program all. You know how to make it.
So you took programming courses as well.
I took courses for R and then courses how to use data, how to use so you need to know how to follow that, right? So you need to research in any data is more you need to know what the data is saying, how the data is. So you need to take many programs that's also good.
So not only have you taken the hardest courses and the most quantitative courses, you also have to do really well in it.
Yeah, that's also a given because, and also like even if you have not taken this quantitative course in any area, then you have the GI in the team have to like showcase it. You have to like you have to get the name perfect of that one because then you have to offset the quantitative course. And vice versa, if you don't do well on your standardized test, you have these quantitative courses for your quantitative skills. So like
so no running away from the point.
no, so like if you do an MBA, I think it's going to be good.
So guys, if you are considering an MBA, there is no running away from the point. So clearly, most rigorous courses, doing really well in them. And then what else? Let's first talk about your extracurricular engagements within the university, Haider. Which sorts of clubs and societies did you apply to? Was there a strategic element in your decision? And how did that process go?
So when I entered Lounge, I was pretty much clear of what societies I want to join. So I was interested in entrepreneur society, I was interested in the consulting group, applied to both of them, was rejected by the consulting group. And I was here in the top year where I was entrepreneur society, so like stuck with that, was really passionate about that. And I think it was mainly because of my interest. It was the strategic element was to follow my passion, what I'm passionate about, what I'm interested in, and what I can contribute to society, and how I can create an impact, right? So how to lead and how to do, how to give my right. So like that was my way of deciding like so yeah.
So not to embarrass you, but I do want to kind of highlight for people who are tuning in. There are rejections along the way.
Yeah.
So, you know, the first choice of club may not necessarily take you. And that's perfectly fine. I mean, it worked out fine for you. So it's, you know, one can have two reactions. You can let failure define you and say and hope about it, or you can kind of move on and say, okay, I'm gonna try the next thing which is on my list, and that works for me. And so you joined the entrepreneurship club, and you see engagement throughout your years.
Yeah, I mean, working down like as close to the like automotive, my third year is like I started as IT, but also at the same time, so there's a background with them, so there's a liaison between body and the body and to work on different projects. And also like another thing I want to talk about is like taking like you want to do something, you have to do it. So the car, you do stuff, you want to do something. Like starts like I went to the CSO, like CSO like design and like help me also find the project and I got funding, I got to everything like that to Pakistan. It happens also in the software, so like very much of stuff. But stuck with the entrepreneur slightly to like 2 years. So like but yeah, so like lots of here and there, but like my I was very clear that I wanted my activities to show leadership. So and also like create an impact. So what is not being done is being done.
My impression of some of the events that London holds, particularly the entrepreneurship club, such as YLES, it's a huge endeavor which requires hours of management and so on. How did you kind of balance this daily active extracurricular portfolio along with not letting your grades get damaged there? So what's the secret sauce?
Don't sleep. That's a given. I think you should not sleep. You should not sleep. I mean, you can sleep for 3 4 hours.
You mean that literally?
I mean, yeah. You can work hard, you can have fun, you can
function of required. Definitely, it is.
You guys are like what 15 years old, 20 years old, and it's perfectly fine. So like, go and hustle, guys. I think that's one advice. Like I think when you really talk, really this like, talk about like you know if you even if you don't get the space, it's perfectly fine. And you get to reap the benefits. That's very important. So like that was I think and also another element is that whatever you're doing to love that you're having fun. And I think that you will be able to manage all of that. So because you should know your priorities, right? Economics is a given. So you have to that's on the side, right? That has to be done. Then it comes your extracurricular activity. You're doing something you're passionate about, you will find it, right? Then you also have to network because college is all about networking.
Now that point, and we get into networking a little bit in depth because I think that played a remarkable role in your application. But before we get to networking, doing all of these extracurriculars, but then, remember when we spoke about in the presentation that the deferred MBA does not require work experience, yet the internships you do during your university year are extremely important because that's what you're going to be talking about in your essays. And so, Heather, share with the audience, where did you land your internship in your freshman year? How did you go about it?
So then in my freshman year, I interned at Nestle, and then in my second year, I interned at PwC, and then in the third year, I got into some like different companies, and I showed that there were several different factors as well. But I mean, my freshman year, Nestle completely out of it.
So let's expand on that. How did this networking come about? What would you share with the audience?
The first step is like everything you put in family and then network.
Also ask the chacha and mamas?
Yeah, chacha, mamas, friends, chachas, mamas, and each and every person you can find, like, not on your like, friends, parents, stories, like, ask people, right? People personally, ask them for your time, ask them if they can connect. Like, it's perfectly fine, it's perfectly fine. You have to take it, just go. So, it's okay if no one opens it. Okay, if they close it. Perfectly fine. They will be
so Nestle was through a friends and family connection. Okay.
Completely honest.
No, this is great. That's why we're having this candid session. Yeah. And so your second year internship, which was with
PwC, that was by chance. That was an essential part of the we have an assurance business advisory and accounting internship as part of the curriculum. So, some places you like I want to work in the group as well as this PwC and like that was part of that happened. Because it was mandatory, I didn't apply anywhere. So like that was solely because of now that the third year came in, so I applied to a number of places. Also gained a bunch of protections came like
and was this through the Love Network?
In third year, no,
yeah.
So during internships, I in Pakistan now they're very structured and they talk that season and also local plan. Very structured. So you apply, it's a very merit-based process. Also, it can help if you have an income. It can definitely help. Helps you like, but it's a very structured process now for you to meet. So you apply for the food, there's assessment, there's interviews. Like for third year, it's very structured.
So how many places did you apply?
I think 10, more than 10, I think.
And I think your choices, one of the main contenders was a recognized company, Citibank.
Yeah.
So most people will have gone for the tried and tested. They would have gone for Citibank versus a big risk you took, going with a startup that most people have not heard about. I mean, how many of you in the room have heard about Endeavor? No one's heard about Endeavor. Yeah. So explain your rationale for this risk.
I mean, so Endeavor was launching, and then also Endeavor again. Like,
How does this network of yours? You know, we really, how does this network come about?
It's a very prestigious thing. Like, I think it never happened because I was a student council and like the MBA vice president, who was in the MBA was the vice president of the student council. So she was the entrepreneur experience head for Pakistan. Okay. And she asked me to come. Never. Okay. And then like I already had Endeavor in my when I was applying for internship, but I waited on so like so Endeavor was what was Endeavor was something very I thought Endeavor was something very different. And it was a position that's typically because I was getting an offer for the associate. First I got an offer for the associate, but I hadn't graduated, so I was going to the associate. So they offered me a position for the associate intern with the full responsibility of the associate with an MBA. So it was like
and you juggle this with your academics and your extracurriculars.
No, it was startup. It was
Okay.
So yeah, I had like the time, but it was 6 months. Okay. So it was not a so what happened was I got into city, I wanted to places. My mom was very so like I didn't want to be the board. That was the primary reason. But Endeavor was something very unique. It was again the world of opportunity. It was a global non-profit headquartered in New York. So Endeavor 43 markets. So and like five of the 40 they launched it. And they were rapidly expanding all emerging markets. They had their own website after the point of view of $500 million it's something like you have never heard. So, like decided like to join in their work. I think I made the right choice. It was very risky. First 2 weeks I was forcing like getting those because even in the US, like the team of joining and like I think like when you look at the board of CE, the senior managers, they were all on the big it was an opportunity, but I think I did the right decision. Because Endeavor was like, because I was even think more auditor plan, I didn't think Endeavor had founders, CEOs, I was working with the best founders of Pakistan. I was analyzing their company, I was analyzing their founders, I was selecting them for the pipeline. It was just me and the man. Just like I I have had meetings that
And you know, this founder is going to get the council or not.
yeah, I was like I was so what is these now about you question you ask them for years. But within their own right, you get to see those same founders being partnered by even better and experienced people. So like Endeavor was amazing. Like you read the founder of LinkedIn, they would question founders. And I had a meeting with Eric Chen from and he had just made an IPO on Nasdaq with $3 billion. Like, like I was really
Once in a lifetime.
yeah, Endeavor was amazing.
So now I'm going to shift the conversation a little bit. I think the audience has an idea about how you spent your university years from freshman year onwards in terms of both the academic, the extracurriculars, internships, and all of that feeds into obviously the application. Now, you know, there are different components to the application. How long did you spend on your essays, Heather? How many drafts?
I remember I started my application around, I think it was May, June of 2023. I think June, it was June when I was decided like even prompts are not released from the university, but they're more or less the same for MBA. It's not like it's very rare in this area. I think this is after 10 so like I decided to work on my essay already on. I had done how got done with I was done with all my academics were good, but so the essay was the main thing, right? So like I went but essay I started in June and then I think I got done. a day before my submission. Because I remember it was 6th September or 5th September, so like from May, June to like September. So like for all these months I worked on essays. I think the finalized essay draft was I think it was a 9 month.
So 9 drafts.
Yeah.
9 drafts, guys, before you hit the nail on the head. And so the essays are one part. I think it's critical. Another really interesting piece of Heather's story, and once again, this is where his magical network comes into play. Interviews are a big component of the graduate admissions process. So, Heather, how did you pave the way for the interviews and share your story with the audience?
So I used to spend like we used to attend these virtual events by these schools, and like I was applying to Stanford and Yale in Harvard. So like I used to every event related to this one and the third MBA with Stanford. So I used to ask the admissions committee the question until I lost the question about this topic. Being from Pakistan, I don't know in countries like Scotland, something that I was doing. And they would answer easily. They would take time. And what happened was, so I connected with also the Yale alumni from both schools, the Pakistani alumni. Very few of them, but they do exist. so I used to.
So how do you connect with them?
On LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, guys. LinkedIn is the place to be.
Yeah, so.
Or it doesn't matter which program you're going to be applying to. When you're applying to, I hope all of you are very active on LinkedIn.
Yeah, so LinkedIn, and then what happened was, so very often, so Yale has like, you don't know more than, right? I think it's slightly different for other schools. It's for some schools tell you who's going to interview you, and you can like
you can mark them on social media and see what their favorite
activities are. And also, Yale asks you to submit a guy in particular. You were asked to submit a code.
What?
A favorite code.
A favorite code.
And why and why is it needed? How you gonna apply that code to your so you decide a code, you submit it, and like the day of my interview started, and it was I think the associate director of admissions at Yale, and she was also the head of this model. And so these sessions we always wanted. Like
so you met her previously?
Yeah. So I met her previously virtually. So like that.
And she knew you.
I mean, she remembered my face. And then at the end of my interviews, like I told her, like I talked to these people and they recommended us to go for this college program. And the people I had dinner with them a day before the interview. Like that was just a cool.
And so this was all through your LinkedIn stalking of people.
Yeah. So when we used to attend the sessions, they would these panelists, they would use students and alumni, so you get the names and profiles from there. You can search on LinkedIn and then connect them with the student. Sometimes they will also share the email in this session. And also like even if you don't attend the session, you can just go on LinkedIn and type the school link
you would get hold of their emails.
No, not even like from LinkedIn you can discuss.
Okay. So you were messaging them?
Yeah, it's like I messaged them and they were all of them from Stanford.
How many people were you interacting with?
I think from here, I think I interacted with like I think 4 or 5. And from Stanford, I interacted with like 2, I think 1 or 2 people. I don't remember exactly what they were also. But it was good.
So just once again for everyone, this is not limited to the deferred MBA program. Every university, for every program, even for undergraduate, has virtual admission sessions. They're free of cost. You don't have to visit the college in person. You should be signing up for these sessions and interacting with the admission representatives directly. Establish your rapport with them. Not at the undergraduate level, you're applying to colleges. You're applying to far less. When it's grad school, you're usually applying to 7 or 8 schools. You should be networking with the admission officer in your program of choice. That really sets you apart when the time comes.
Yeah, and also like if you get these sessions, like if after attendance also.
So they mark your attendance.
For MBA, they do it. And when you're applying, so they match it with the code, and then also it gives you brownie points, and also sometimes they give you free visits. And so like yeah, so you should definitely get into sessions. That is a given. And yeah, again, you apply to different school, and for MBA, every school has a different form. That makes it more rigorous. So that's why it's very difficult to apply to more MBA programs. You should apply. You should start early.
So even the deferred MBA programs, every university has a different flavor and different things that they're looking for. Some want a traditional finance, banking kind of background. Others are looking more for entrepreneurs. That's what Stanford is looking for. So you really have to dig deep and research into your program to make sure you're the right fit. Heather, any pearls of wisdom that you would like to leave the audience with about the entire deferred MBA process? You are Pakistan's first Yale Silver Scholars. That's a tremendous achievement. What would you say to people who wish to emulate your journey?
I mean, plan early, hustle, and enjoy.
Plan early, hustle, and enjoy. Yeah. And see.
You don't have you will have enough time. I think when you were there.
Thank you so much for that, Heather. With that, guys, we'll open it up for questions. Any questions from the audience? Anything that you would like to know from Heather? He is off to the US, inshallah, in another couple of months. I have requested him to pay it forward. Yeah. He's shared with me many times that all the cold calling that he's done on LinkedIn, people have been very generous with sharing their time, and I was like, please, when juniors now from Pakistan reach out to you and ask you questions about the Yale Silver Scholars or deferred MBA in general, do remember us back in Pakistan. So, Heather, I'm assuming they can find you on LinkedIn.
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me if you're part of the discussion program.
So, alumni are part of the discussion program?
Yeah, I think of it.
Did you use that portal?
I mean, you can, but I think in my case, I didn't. Yes, you use it in a different way. You don't use it to connect with people, you use it to extract it.
Okay, wait. We won't go into how that works. We will leave that secret for off the record. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Most grateful, and I hope that this conversation is for everyone, and a recording of it would be available. I know there are multiple events going on today, elections. So the turnout wasn't as great as we would have liked, but we hope that this conversation can be shared with others who were not able to be here. Thank you with that. Thank you so much.